Hello and welcome to the Dream Team Professor podcast. My name is Scott, and in this episode, I'll be going through my game week 1 team selection for the Sun Dream Team fantasy football game. Before we get started, please do join the free community league code. I realize I haven't been pushing this as much as I should have, but it's on the screen now. 7YZKO for orange, not 0, ALG. And there's a link also in the description so you can join the community league there. So I'm going to go through my team selection for Dream Team in this video. Just a few things first. So I'm recording this on Thursday evening. So like everyone, I'm prone to team news. Transfer window's open. So we've got the likes of Eze who's being rumoured around. So there could still be things that change. And I'm human like the rest of you. I still will probably tinker with this team a little bit. But I keep making changes and keep coming back to this same team. So I feel like this is probably going to be how I line up going into the season. Bear in mind, if any of you do decide to copy this team, you won't be winning the $5,000, or at least if you are winning the $5,000 for the best team for game week 1, you'll be splitting it with myself and maybe others. But yeah, I'm kind of not really thinking about that with this team. Thoughts before picking the team, things that have come into my mind in the sort of pre-season when selecting a team. I can't ignore the big hitters. The big hitters will be in the team. They come at an expense, but the big hitters will be there. When choosing the big hitters, I've tried to go for the ones I think have the best fixtures. Then when it comes to picking enablers, I've tried to go for more sort of value for money over the sort of new, potentially exciting picks that could go off. They could do really well, but they also may not even start. They may get limited minutes. I've gone for sort of tried and tested, maybe not so fashionable picks in the enabler slots. I've done a mix of European fixture teams or teams of Europe, and then teams that won't have Europe but that will have the Carabao Cup. I've tried to fit that in there a little bit. Take advantage of some non-European teams while we don't have that much budget to play with as well. Minimal cost on a goalkeeper. Looking through sort of the previous data, the money in goal compared to the money on the pitch, the outfield players always do much better for the price in comparison to the goalkeepers. So I have gone for a cheap goalkeeper. And then I've just tried to consider the price points a little bit. Can I fill my team with slots where I can move to other players fairly easily? Rather than load it out and have loads of sort of cheaper players that I can't really do much with. So I've tried to bear that in mind as well. But I'll cut to the chase. Here is my team, one by one. If you could please leave a like on the video, subscribe so you get kept up to date with all the latest content. Let's get started. So Sells in goal. If you did see my first draft, I've not moved far off it. I had Miguel in goal, who I thought might be the goalkeeper. It's become apparent during sort of pre-season that this would be Sells keeping his number 1 spot for now. I say for now because there's goalkeepers like Aaron Ramsdale, Sam Johnston as well that are sort of looking at getting a new club. Quite a lot of talk around the goalkeeper positions, and Forest just seem to love a goalkeeper, signing goalkeepers. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did it, but I'm going to go with Sells. For the first initial fixtures. Bournemouth at home looks good. Southampton away, newly promoted side, looks like it could be okay. They've now had a fixture put in for the Carabao Cup, which is Newcastle at home. So there is a chance that they probably go with a stronger lineup, but because they have got decent goalkeeper options, I wouldn't be surprised if they use this as an opportunity to try one of the backups. So not really planning to get 2 fixtures out of him in that one. And then in game week 3, Wolves at home. So I think as an opening run, I think that looks okay. I think it looks okay going forward. I know they have got a Liverpool game, I think, soon after that. But I think for 2 million, I'm pretty happy with it. I'm probably going to just leave him there for quite a while until I've built some budget up elsewhere. So like the opening fixtures, there is the stat that I keep sort of talking about. Their defence really did underperform their expected goals conceded, if you care about expected goals. They had one of the best defenses for expected goals conceded, but they had one of the worst defenses for goals conceded. So something went horribly wrong there. Maybe it was a bad goalkeeper, which wouldn't be great. They did concede a lot of goals from set pieces. But I'm hoping that that might level out a little bit and maybe their defense can improve. They've got a new manager sort of partway through the season as well. So with a pre-season behind them, hopefully they can improve. I liked the 2.5 options. Henderson looked good. Areola looked good from West Ham. But I just felt that 0.5 saving could have been spent a little bit better outfield, in my opinion. There probably are fixed a few keepers as well that maybe might get 2 fixtures in sort of game week 2. Maybe Pickford looked like he um, played both last time round. Maybe you could go for a keeper like Henderson, who, if they haven't got a backup available, might play 2. But again, it's hard to really predict. So I'm happy to stay with Sells at 2 million in goal. But yeah, I don't think it's perfect, but I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. Then I'm going to go for Lewis Hall at the back from Newcastle. So actually another change from my initial draft, but not a big one. I had Livramento first, and I thought that Trippier would probably be gone by now, but he's still hanging around. And the longer he sort of stays there, the more I think he probably isn't going to go. And if he doesn't go, I think he'll end up playing, even if Livramento does end up playing like the first couple of fixtures. So I've gone for Lewis Hall at left back. Dan Burn obviously played left back quite a bit last season, but it looks like he's going to be needed at centre back. I think Fabian Schär's picked up an injury. Botman is out injured as well. So, and Lewis Hall has looked good in pre-season and has looked good previously playing for Newcastle as well. 2 goals last season, which it's not amazing, but he actually only started 8 Premier League matches. He does have attacking threat. He's played in the midfield at times. Again, for the price point, you're not expecting the world, but I think the fixtures look okay and they're reasonably solid defense. They've got Nick Pope back, so I think he's going to probably make them a lot better at the back. So, yeah, I don't mind this pick at all. Someone that I wasn't 100% sold on, and I probably don't see myself keeping him at long term. I don't know whether he'll play the Carabao Cup. Maybe he plays in midfield. That would be the ideal scenario. But I likely will probably move off him, maybe for game week 3 when they face Tottenham, or maybe game week 4 when we start looking towards sort of Champions League players. But for now, I'm happy with Lewis Hall there. I'm then going for Vardiol in the defence, 4.5 million. So he's going to be my most expensive defender. I just wanted to get someone in there from one of the best defences, and I don't really want to pay the money to get into that Arsenal defence. And then City are really the second best defence. They've got decent enough fixtures. I know people are a little bit put off maybe by Chelsea away, but I wouldn't be surprised if they can keep a clean sheet in that one. And then going forward, they are going to be a decent defence. This is probably where they're going to be most vulnerable, maybe if they don't have Rodri. But that backline they put out in the Carabao Community Shield was still fairly decent. So I'm happy to just go with him from the start. 8 attacking returns. 5 goals was the most goals from any of the defenders. And I feel like they only really started to utilise him properly towards the end of the season, sort of flitting between centre back and then left back. And then he really excelled in that sort of left back position where he sort of got into the box, had a lot of touches in the box, was playing really sort of high and wide. So I feel like if he can pick up where he left off last season, he'll do really, really well. 27 bonus as well, averaged 5.1 player performance marks a game, which I know it doesn't quite work out because the way that the tiers and the bonus points are sort of staggered. But yeah, he does well for bonus. And I think it's just a likely hold throughout Europe, really, once European football starts as well. I just feel that at 4.5, he could still potentially be underpriced, whereas maybe the Arsenal defenders are overpriced. He could maybe compete on a level with Trent. He's not quite as good. But then you've got Porro as well. He's sort of around that mark. I feel like he could still rise. Third highest average out of the defenders as well. So yeah, overall, just like Vardiol. The only downside would be maybe you could get someone better for the first fixture and then move to Vardiol. But I don't really want to start planning in moves like that because we know this is game week 1, but stuff always comes up. Someone might not start that you think would start. There's always something that goes on. So I'm happy to get him in now with a view at that Ipswich home fixture and then holding him. 17.8%. So I imagine a lot of people have got a similar idea as well. Then I'm going for Anthony Robinson at 3 million. Now, kind of similar. Don't love the first fixture, but they do have a nice fixture run. So Man United away in that first match. And a reminder, we'll see the lineups going into that sort of dream team deadline. And then it will change to being a lockout earlier than that later in the season. But then it's Leicester at home and then Ipswich away. He's now plays most games. He's always available. 41 bonus points from 41 starts. So he's regular for hitting bonus points. That's the second most bonus out of all the defenders. And he didn't play in Europe. So obviously Conte have done really well for bonus, but he played a lot more games. So he seems like he does everything right when it comes to bonus. 7 assists. So it puts in a good cross, decent attacking returns. No goals though. So hopefully he can add some goals to his game. And he averages 2 tackles per game or over 2 tackles per game. So he's going to get the tackle points. He's going to get the bonus. And then if he gets clean sheet as well or an attacking return, then you're going to start to hit the big points. So I really like Robinson as an early pick or even a longer term pick. I don't think it will end up being an issue. He featured 5 times last season in the Carabao Cup. So they went quite far in the Carabao Cup for them. They have Birmingham away from home, though. And I did look. He had 4 starts in the Carabao Cup. He was an unused sub for one of the matches. And then one of the matches, he just played 21 minutes off the bench. The games where he was an unused sub and he came off the bench were against non-Premier League opposition. And then he played the Premier League ones. So I imagine he probably doesn't end up playing Birmingham. But if they go further, game week 4 would be sort of the next Carabao Cup match. If they draw a Premier League side, there is a good chance that he might end up playing that one as well. Then I'm going to go to Eberechi Eze in midfield at 4.5 million. Another quite popular pick, I think. 16.2% selected. But he's going to be the sort of example I use where there could still be changes. I do want to have him. But there could still be changes if anything changes transfer-wise. Obviously, being heavily linked with Man City, and he does have that release clause, so it sort of could be activated any moment. But take that out of the equation. Cheapest player in the top 10 players with the highest average. I can't find a way to say that better, but does really well. Outscores his average points for his price. 11 goals, 7 assists. 48 bonus points is huge. He's on all set pieces, penalties. He's just the main man at Palace at the moment. And like I said, I mentioned it in quite a few pods before, but he scores well, even in games where Palace don't win or even sometimes don't score because of those bonus points. Because he averages, I think it was a shot on target per game as well. So he gets an extra point that way, similar to how Robinson gets tackle points. If it does come out tomorrow at some point that he is going to get moved, I'd probably just look to move that 4.5 slot onto another 4.5 player. Maybe a Newcastle midfielder, Bruno, Gordon. You've got the option to move to a Liverpool midfielder. There's quite a few options around that price point. So I'd like to keep him. I think I probably will end up keeping him. I don't think we're going to hear anything, and I do expect him to play, but that could be one of the things that comes up. I'm then going to go for my boy, Bukayo Saka. I've seen enough in pre-season now that I do expect he will start that first Premier League match. Maybe he does get an earlier sub, but Arteta loves playing him. He runs him through the ground. Lots of options for that price. So it was a harder decision, but made easier by the fact we've not seen Foden in pre-season. We've seen about a minute of KDB. Or maybe a little bit more, but in the Community Shield, we saw a minute from him. So they're not coming back at the right time. Foden, I think, has played 45 minutes. Palmer's played 45 minutes in pre-season. The only one that's sort of had the pre-season minutes and could really compete for fixture and how well I think they're going to do could be Bruno Fernandes. I like both of those options, but I do think that Arsenal have the better fixtures there. I expect he'll do well at home to Wolves, home to Brighton, Aston Villa, tough game, but he gets points from loads of different ways. So tackles, again, bonus 52 bonus points. The goals and assists just keep rising season on season. 20 goals, 16 assists. Penalties, corners. So a bit of a trend. I'm going for players that hit bonus, get points in a load of different ways. And if I can get the penalty takers and set piece takers, I'll do that as well. So Saka is in the team. This is where you might start to doubt me, whether I'm losing my mind or not. But I realize these next two are not going to be the most popular of picks. Now, I'd been toying with the idea of, if you watched the previous one, I think I had Maddison in this slot, and then in the next slot, I had a 2.5 mil player. I've been sort of put off by Maddison. I think I just want to wait and see how he gets on. He's not had the best preseason, and everything I hear hasn't been that great about him in preseason, and he didn't really end the season that well either. So I've kind of been put off that for now, and I've decided to dip the price down from 4 to 3.5, and then put that money into the next position that we'll talk about. But Morgan Gibbs White is another one that outscores his price point on average. So his average points, 5 points per game, is quite high for the 3.5 price bracket. There are a few that beat it, and Buemo is someone that is around the same price that does interest me. There was also Kulusevski and Brennan Johnson, who I was interested in for this position as well. I'm a little bit put off by Solanke coming, and then Kulusevski and Johnson probably sort of eating each other's minutes. So I've gone for Morgan Gibbs White. Again, 39 bonus from 42 matches. He seems to be consistent for bonus. He seems to score okay in games where he doesn't always get an attack in return. I wanted to try and just offset if you went for a sort of 2.5 million pound player and then they blank and then they blank and then they might score a goal. I wanted to try and offset that and try and get some steady points from these enabler spots. And then once we've got a bit more information, I'm happy to move them on if they're not performing. So he's expected to be on penalties. There's a bit of uncertainty now whether he still has all set pieces. Looks like he has direct free kicks, but he did give up some corners to Elanga. And also Anderson, the new signing, has taken a few of the set pieces as well. So that is a little bit of a disappointment, because that could affect his bonus. He does have a lot of successful crosses, which if he has less set pieces, he'll have less successful crosses, he'll have less bonus. But I think I'm going to go with it anyway and see how it goes. Decent attacking returns, 18 attacking returns, 6 goals, 12 assists. I'd like it if that was weighted a bit more towards goals. I look back at his previous seasons and he doesn't score the most goals, and obviously goals are worth more than assists. But again, I don't think 18 attacking returns is bad. And like I said, I would consider downgrading if the right 2.5 or 3 million pound player appears or it becomes obvious. I can move on to them, maybe get price rise. But I just couldn't decide at that 2.5 spot. I liked Smith Rowe. I kind of liked Pereira, but there was sort of talk coming out. They don't know how fit Smith Rowe would be, whether he'll sort of play the full 90. Yeah, there's just a lot of question marks. Morgan Rogers, people like, I'm not dead certain that he's going to play all of the minutes or isn't a rotation risk. I know with Gibbs White that he's nailed. There's no doubt about it. He's the talisman of the team. Probably plays 90 minutes most games. And then the draw come out for the Carabao Cup. Now, it would be a bonus. He didn't start the Carabao Cup last season, but they've got Bournemouth home first, Southampton away, so newly promoted side again in the Premier League, and then they've drawn Newcastle at home in the Carabao Cup. So it's going to be a tough match. I feel like that could be a bit more likelihood that they go full strength. But again, if it happens, it's a bonus. And then Wolves at home in game week 3. So again, taking advantage of these Forest fixtures, but I do know they're not one of the best teams. They're probably not going to score the most goals. But I like that there's sort of no doubt around it. He's going to play, he's going to be there, and he is a threat. Then I'm going to go for Dwight McNeil. You probably think I've got a problem with Everton at the minute after picking Garner for this position last time out. Obviously, Garner then got injured. So I've tried to, again, follow this sort of idea of going for players that are nailed, which McNeil is. Played a majority of minutes, rarely gets subbed off. Home fixture against Brighton. Obviously, Brighton are a great side, but Everton are good at home. Got Tottenham away in the second one, which I don't like too much. Doncaster at home, it looks like they've drawn the same draw that they drew last season in the Cup. And Dyche went relatively strong. McNeil, though, wasn't available for the first fixture. He was actually injured with an ankle injury. I think he then came on as a sub after that, and then he actually did start all of the Carabao Cup matches after that when fit against decent opposition. So there is a chance, and then Bournemouth at home. But the main reason I've got him, 4.9 average, again, that's in line with Morgan Gibbs-White, who is 0.5 more expensive. So he does well for his price point. Attacking returns is quite similar to Gibbs-White, actually. So he does get attacking returns, 3 goals, 9 assists. Again, I would like that to have been more goals, just the 3 goals, but 9 assists is okay. He's taking set pieces, corners, free kicks. He did split them with Garner, but Garner's now injured. So whether he takes even more, we'll have to wait and see. But he's taking corners for Everton, who are notoriously good in the air. They've got Calvert-Lewin. They've just signed that massive new centre half, Tarkowski. They've got loads of threat. So hopefully he can chip in with an attacking return, a potential assist. And then 41 bonus points is another that just seems to get in and around the same amount of bonus as he does appearances. So I think I've got a full midfield there and almost defence packed with players that do hit bonus points and can get returns. And then I'm going to come on to my strike force, which probably won't come as too much of a surprise, I don't think, compared to some of these last picks. So Erling Haaland, what do I need to say? 8.5. So he is expensive. He's now in 58% of teams, which that has crept up significantly as we get near to the deadline. I don't want to go without him. Chelsea away, yeah, doesn't look the best on paper, but he did just score a hat-trick against Chelsea. Currently under a new manager, they're playing out the back. They don't all look comfortable doing so. 38 goals, 9 assists last season, even more the season before that. And I just think having him just gives me an easy captain most weeks. 47 returns from 43 games. And it's bad enough backing against him for the captaincy, but backing against him for ownership, it's not something I like to do in this game. 5 goals in pre-season. But currently I am backing against him for the captaincy because I think I have some other decent captaincy options, but this is one that I'm probably going to play around with in my head. Spent a lot of time picking the right team, but I've got some good captaincy options here. But currently, just stuck the vice captaincy on Haaland. The guy that I have got the armband on currently is Mo Salah. Just a 25% owned at the minute. I think his ownership has slipped a little. Obviously, he's expensive, hard to fit in with Haaland. You can get a more balanced team without him. And maybe I'd consider doing that if the fixtures weren't so good. But Ipswich away looks good to me. Brentford at home, again, could arguably be a good captaincy match. And then, despite Liverpool's record not being as good against Man United recently, Salah's record is really good against Manchester United. So I want him for these 3 fixtures. He's got that right wing position nailed. He's had a full pre-season and summer break, just the same as Haaland. And he's unlikely to be subbed off. I know we have to wait and see what Arne Slot does. But Salah doesn't really get subbed off that often. I can't see it happening. All of the sort of rotation options that Liverpool tend to have seem to be on the left and seem to be through the middle, which is partly the reason why I'm not so keen on going Jota and Diaz to cover Salah. I think they could be decent options, but personally, I want Salah. Gakpo, Nunes are both still options as well on the other side through the middle. So I just think that Salah is probably the safer pick out of the Liverpool players for minutes and rotation. And the fact he's really good at scoring goals reliably and scoring points on Dream Team. So currently, he's in my team. He's my captain. I think 25% ownership feels pretty low. And I guess the captaincy is going to be pretty low as well if there's not many people owning him. So might be a bit of a differential captaincy-wise. But currently, I do like it. The only thing that's playing on my mind is the fact that it's the early kickoff. And then last, I'm going to go Alexander Isak. Probably no surprise there either. Southampton at home looks great. Opening fixture. Bournemouth away. Forest away. That Forest game again, it's a pretty difficult fixture. I'm not sure what Wilson's current fitness update is at the minute, but maybe he gets some minutes in this one. And then Tottenham at home in game week 3. I think that looks like a decent run for Newcastle. The Tottenham fixture probably looks the hardest, but we have seen Ange likes to play a high line, and Isak definitely could get in behind that high line. So I think he is a viable captaincy option again for Southampton home. Seems to be pretty popular with the FPL crowd for the captaincy as well. I don't hate it. It is one that I'm going to have to think about. I could captain all 3 of these players, and I like having the option of doing so. Do like the fact that it's a home fixture, but currently still feeling Salah. I've got 3 pen takers in that front line. Isak's a pen taker, Salah, Haaland, and then in midfield as well, Eze, Saka, Gibbs, White. So 6 penalty takers there. He got 3 goals, 1 assist in pre-season, so he's been on form. 3rd highest scoring player as well. So if he does go off and I don't captain him, it won't be sort of double jeopardy. But that is how I intend on lining up going into the season. Again, not to be a spoil sport, but it could change subject to late news. I'd encourage you to play your own game. I was doing sort of team reveals last season, and I know some people were sort of copying my team move by move. I'm not going to commit to saying I'm going to post my team week in, week out before the deadline, because I'm like everyone else. I tinker with my side right up to the very end. So I'm not going to commit to saying that I'm going to share my team every game week, but I thought it'd be handy to share before this first initial deadline. But yeah, play your own game and just have fun. Like going into this season, I've seen a lot of you commenting saying that you're like nervous going into the season and spending loads of time on this planning, which obviously I have as well. But I kind of have got to the point with this team where I kind of felt like this is as good as I think I'll get, or the most I'll be happy with. But it isn't going to be this first initial pick that's going to decide your season. It's going to be the changes that you make along the way, because it's a long way to go. There's loads of transfers. And every year I look back at how I started the season before, and there's players that I pick out and go, what was I thinking there? What was I doing there? You're not going to get it right first time. So yeah, enjoy. Get those teams sorted before the deadline, and best of luck going into the new season. Please do leave a like, subscribe to the channel. It looks like I'm pretty close to hitting 3,000 subs, which is bonkers to me. So thank you to everyone that has subscribed to the channel. It's great to see people that sort of engaged last season and the season before coming back in the comments and chatting to us. So yeah, grateful to everyone who subscribes and gets involved in the chat. Do check out the Dream Team Tonic podcast as well. We've got extra content on a regular basis over on the Dream Team Tonic podcast. And if you want to become part of our Patreon community, where we've got a Discord chat server, exclusive articles, you get early access to the podcast and a load of other stuff. There'll be a link in the description below for that. And then don't forget the Community League, link in the description below. But that's all the plugs. Thanks. Have a good time. Goodbye.